Hey everybody, welcome to my Magic channel. I've just started it up. There is, in fact, a new Final Fantasy set out, and I've been threatening to do more like long-form content for what feels like months now. And so I'm just gonna get into it, and it might be bad to start out with, but you know, no time
I
like the
expect it
present.
to be.
You expect it to be bad? Gee, thanks.
That's what practice is for, though. So,
You know what? Fair point. Fair point. Um, so anyway, we're going to talk about the Final Fantasy cards that came out. Not the whole set. We're not doing a full set review. Um, there are other channels who are much more experienced at doing that kind of thing. So for my first time out, I'm thinking high level. I'm thinking vibes. I brought my favorite human along to help me talk about Final Fantasy cards because we both play Magic and also many of the Final Fantasy games. So actually, that's been one of the things that's been kind of weird. If you've been following like any of the coverage, is it seems like there's not as much overlap, at least in the YouTube space, as I would have thought, creator-wise. It's like we have people who either know a lot of about Magic and then they pronounce names like Urianger, or we
Ranger,
have or we have Final Fantasy fans who don't really know much about Magic. I don't know. That just seems
given that it's the best-selling set of all time, I think there is a huge overlap. They're just a lot quieter than you would expect.
just maybe not as many people in the creator space for that. That being said, how are you feeling about the set? Have you heard or been watching anything? What's the vibe check?
I basically don't consume Magic content other than occasional watching people play games for fun. Yeah, I don't actually really watch any sort of creator or review of cards or anything of that. I mean, my only vibes are the vibes that I have from the people literally directly close to me that I talk to. And most people are excited because most of my close friends share similar interests that I do, which is a lot of gaming, and have been playing Final Fantasy for most of their life in some fashion. So most of my close friends are quite excited, just like I am.
Great. Me too. Work has been a buzz. There are people. I do work with the cards, and I'm not going to say exactly where because I'm not representing them. They're not sponsoring me for this, so I'm not going to say where I work. But I do work with Magic cards. There are people at work who do not play Magic, do not really care about Magic. It's just a job. There are people who are like really into Final Fantasy and they're like, okay, maybe this will be the first time I pick up some Magic cards. And then there are people who are like, Cloud who? But also that's a 2-drop that searches me an equipment. So I'm gonna be playing it. It's the full spectrum I get to hear about at work. We even have someone who's really upset that Vincent doesn't turn into chaos, but we can get into that later. So yeah, I mean, I think generally it's an exciting set, an exciting time to be into Magic and also Final Fantasy, and the in pre-sale it's the best selling Magic set of all time, which is insane to me. It feels like that shouldn't be like possible, right?
No, it makes a lot of sense to me. They're both one of the de facto leaders in their industries. I mean, Final Fantasy is a very well-known JRPG series that's been going on for 30-something years. I dare say it's if you're a casual video game player, you've probably encountered it or played one of the many, many game series. Like, you gotta remember, the series was large enough that it had its own mainstream movie release.
Oh yeah, 2. Well,
I'm only gonna count the one. So yeah, just to end my point, like that's why it's not surprising to me at all. This isn't a small thing to me. I feel like there's very few other properties that you could do with Magic that would ever be larger than this.
all right. So as a product, how do you think they did? I'll lead into this with sort of one of my like elephants in the room, right? is Scryfall has this thing now where you can, and you can do it on the Wizard site too now, where you can like sort this set by which games they come from. And if we look at Final Fantasy 1 has 13 cards, Final Fantasy 2 has 11 cards, and these are including basic lands and things. There are 13 cards from Final Fantasy 3, and then like 16 from Final Fantasy 4. And to me, that's like the classic era of Final Fantasy, right?
I find that so fascinating that you consider 1 through 4 classic. I feel like 1 through 6 to me is the classic.
Well, I guess part of that is because I never played 5 or 6 as a kid, right? Because, like, 6 was a PlayStation game, wasn't it?
No.
No? Really?
The original 6 was a SNES game. Yeah, I mean, that's why I see the divide. Like, I didn't ever play these when they came out either. I played all these games way after the fact when I was in my, teens to 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, yeah, 1 through 6 were the original Nintendo ones. I mean, that's why I see it as the divide, because as soon as you hit 7, that's when it went to the PlayStation, and you had the first 3D Final Fantasy. And that's when the quote, more modern Final Fantasy started to me. And you basically have, 7 through 13,
Mm-hmm.
As I think another kind of generation of Final Fantasies. And then 14 and beyond is, I think, the most modern generation of Final Fantasies.
Well, that being the case, Final Fantasy VII has 43 cards and an entire commander deck. There are 3 clouds in this set. Like, you kind of feel like there's a little bit of a popularity contest here, because like most of the other sets are sitting around 15 to 20 cards, and then you've got...
It's clearly a marketing thing. It's expected. I don't expect WotC or Square to make non-sound business decisions. So you're going to go with the games that sold the most, that have the most popularity, that have the biggest faces that most people know, because they're just trying to bring in the most people. Because, I mean, that's the biggest thing of what UB is trying to do, is bring in more players.
But
so the most popular games get the most cards.
14 has 45 cards and an entire commander set. I feel like we could have balanced things out a little bit more.
I completely agree with you, but you also got to remember 14 itself is more than one game worth of content.
Yeah.
And it is still active. Like, if anything, 11 got shortchanged comparison to some of the other games where it has the same thing for 14, where they're both backbones for the company and have been going and making money for a very long time. But being MMOs, it's just slightly different in how they operate and how people interact and experience them.
Yeah, that's fair. I think my number one card, as far as like this probably could have been from another game, is Matoya, Archon Elder. Matoya is a recurring character in the Final Fantasy series. There is a character named Matoya in many games, if not directly as a character, then referenced, right? This could have been a Final Fantasy 1 card. You know what I mean?
Yep, it totally could have been. I mean, as you said, that happened a lot with 14, though, and I feel like there's a lot of times it's even more silly because it's 14 referencing the older game that it initially came out of. And you're like, why did... Like, I mean, exactly you said, like, the 14 card is Matoya. Matoya is a reference to FF1 Matoya, though.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of 14. It seems like an excessive amount of 14, especially with the commander decks, and especially when the intention, as stated, is for the set to go more broad strokes, and then the commander decks to go in more detail, right? So I think where they succeeded in that as a mission statement is the SIDs. I love that they got every SID in the game, and you can have a deck with all of the SIDs in them, and they all do stuff with artifacts, and it's great. I was gonna say we didn't get any of the Eidolons from Final Fantasy 13, but we did actually get one.
We got Brynhilda.
We got Brynhilda. It is weird that she doesn't turn into a car, but that's okay. She's following the summon template. Speaking of which, how do we love the summons? Do we hate the summons? How are we feeling on the summons?
I think they're wonderful. I think that's about as accurate as you can make it given MTG's framework and rules, while replicating how they function basically in every game. It's a big splashy thing, it enters, it does something, and then it goes away. Yeah. Sometimes they last a little bit longer, sometimes they're like controllable dudes, but it's usually, I summon creature, big FMV attack, or fancy special attack for a couple of bits, but it's usually limited, time-wise, but with a big splashy effect, and that's what they did with the sagas.
I do feel like it's really good, really fun design space to explore saga creatures, because you can definitely like push them a little bit more because they go away. So because they are creatures and you do end up losing out on that space, do you think it's even worth, if you were playing like a deck built around these summons, including a card like Barbara Wright that gives your sagas read ahead? Or would you want to try to like do more of the like the Garnet effect, where you're trying to take counters off of your creatures to keep them around as long as possible?
I definitely think it's depending on the saga itself. I mean, as being saga creatures, they have a bevy of effects, in addition to also having stats and like combat abilities. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some that I think you would rather just read ahead than actually have out and do stuff with. Mm-hmm. But on the flip side, there's probably going to be some that you're like, yeah, I really would like to just use the middle ability more times, so I'm just going to put it and then just keep using the middle ability. But like, if you're like, I have like, I don't know, 20 CMC worth of permanents out, I'm just going to play Bahamut and read ahead. Like, that are completely different scenarios where both I think would be useful.
There was actually one, there are some creatures in the set that turn into sagas, and then turn back, but there's one in particular that I think is kind of fun, that doesn't change back, and that's Jecht, Reluctant Guardian. He just turns into the final Aeon, and then once he's done, he's done.
He dies.
Yeah, and I think that captures the flavor so beautifully. Like the dominants, they all turn into the summons, but they can change back. Like I could see someone trying to play a deck that's just like Jecht and a bunch of stuff that can remove counters from Braska's final Aeon to try to keep him on board as long as possible, because then you're drawing cards every turn. You know what I mean?
We actually have a friend who's built a deck designed for him just to die.
Oh, designed just to die, really? So they're gonna do like reanimate Jecht, huh?
Yeah, because he is a creature, you can use all of the like black. If this creature would die this turn, put it on the battlefield. Tapped and like indestructible or anything of that similar nature.
Oh, sure.
Of course, it's going to be the front side, but that's what they want.
The like Feign Death and Kaya's ghost forms and stuff. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was just thinking, like, from a story perspective, spoilers of Final Fantasy X, Jecht is, existing on borrowed time.
I can't hear the hymn so well anymore. Pretty soon I'm gonna be Sin, completely.
So I do really thematically, I do like the idea of him just trying to hold on with a Hex Parasite for as long as he can, until Tidus comes and beats him up.
I'm glad you're here now.
I just love that idea so much. Anyway, all right, cool. I guess we could talk about the Through the Ages cards. Do you have any strong opinions on these?
I'm not a big fan of just alternate arts of existing cards. Very rarely will I go out of my way to get a card just specifically for the art of it. I am a huge fan of the mono, and to be clear, one of the few cards I've ever bought for its art was the Amano Liliana. But like a lot of the excitement I get is looking at the new designs and seeing how they translate Final Fantasy characters into MTG with those designs. So it's just like the FCA is like, cool, but that's not new cards.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think it's a little awkward how some of these are just screenshots, or if not screenshots, then like promotional art, or like this Search for the Frozen Esper Nature's Claim it's just a scene from Final Fantasy, what is that, 6? With like full pixels and everything. And like I wouldn't mind these if they made sense. Like I will say, the Idea Kramer, from what I understand, her being Teferi because of her connection to Ultimecia and all that kind of stuff, that works. You know what? Time Mage, great. I
mean, at least it works that it's displaying a character and the card is a character. It's a creature.
Yeah.
I think that at a minimum is what you need, because I'm looking at, Stay With Me, which is Rhystic Study, and it's two people, it's Edith and Yuna having a touching emotional moment. But what's the connection to Rhystic Study? What's the connection to any of that? Nothing.
What part of this says draw a card on it?
And it's kind of weird because you can still have that sort of style of card and art together. We literally have, what's that red card? What's the red card? It's usually Chandra with somebody.
Chandra with Cathartic. Yeah.
Yes, Cathartic Reunion.
Yeah, Cathartic Reunion. Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
I understand why they want Rhystic Study. It's a well-loved Magic card. Like, I still think you can find appropriate art to match with this stuff. Even if you want to use, like, just the bog standard popular EDH cards, you can still make better connections.
Yeah. I think you're right. Cool. Well, anything else you wanted to have a chat about?
Well, I don't think so. My general thought is I'm quite excited for this. Once again, Final Fantasy is a huge part of my life. Played a lot of these games, beat some of them. I'm excited to see these cards. I've brewing a bunch of decks already. I'm quite excited for this.
Great. Well, thanks for joining me and talking about some Magic cards. I had a lot of fun. This isn't even our entire thoughts on the set. There was some stuff I had to cut for time, and even then we're running pretty long. If you enjoyed hearing my thoughts about Magic cards, don't worry, there will be more. I am working on some deck techs and things that'll be posting up on the channel shortly, I hope. I am learning editing software right now, so, we'll see how it goes. And I will leave links in the description to, like, my Patreon and my streaming channel if you want to come hang out. Currently, at time of recording, I stream on Sundays and Mondays at 7 o'clock. So, if you can swing by and say hi, that'd be super cool, but no pressure. If you had your own thoughts on any of this stuff, go ahead and leave some comments. I can't promise that I read them. I do have a full-time job, but I will certainly try. And until next time, yeah, bye.